A moment away. 8 days. No phone, no news, no internet, no glimpse of the outside world. It's just me, enclosed within 4 walls of a mosque, stripped of distraction and holding nothing but a Quran in my hands, with nowhere else to be. I thought I came here to worship in peace, but peace wasn't what I found first. I found confrontation. I was sitting quietly in my place when a brother approached me. I didn't know his name, I didn't know his age, his race, nothing. All I saw was a smile, a sincere one, the kind that doesn't introduce itself, but it makes you feel known anyways, so I listened. He explained the rhythm of this place, when we eat, when we sleep, how to structure worship, how to make the most out of these days. And it wasn't rigid, it wasn't forced, it was intentional. I told him I wasn't new to being away from the world. I asked if there were gatherings, circles of knowledge or whatever. He said no, but somehow we still spoke. We spoke about things that mattered, about things that lingered long after the words ended. And when we parted, he returned to his worship and then I returned to mine. A simple encounter, but something had already begun. I read and I read and I read, 1 chapter complete. I didn't understand much, not yet. The words passed through my lips, but the meanings hadn't settled in my mind. Yet somehow they reached my heart. A stillness began to settle within me, a quiet cleansing, as if something buried deep inside was being washed, gently, patiently. Then a knock. Food. I refused at first, because I had eaten already. But when I saw their faces, I realized there's a silent language in shared moments. When one person holds back, something feels incomplete. And I realized this wasn't just about food. So I accepted. We sat on the floor, shoulder to shoulder, different ages, different lives, one purpose. And I understood something. It wasn't the food that was special, it was what surrounded it, the intention, the unity, the barakah. And that tranquility I felt while reading, it didn't just return, it expanded, like light filling a room I didn't realize was dark. I read and I read and I read, 4 chapters in. Then I was called, not to eat, not to sleep, but to sit and read with a familiar brother, a book on khushu'. I thought I understood it. It means focus, concentration. But this was deeper. Khushu' is not where your eyes just rest, it's where your heart settles. It's a complete surrendering before your Lord. As Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah describes, the heart is in true khushu' when it gathers itself. It's no longer scattered between distractions, but hadir, fully present before Allah. And suddenly prayer just changed. It was no longer a routine. It was no longer just movements. It was a meeting. I wasn't standing in salah. I was standing before Allah. And for the first time, it meant something far greater. We continued reading. And then I came to a reality that unsettled me. Every sin leaves a mark, a black dot on the heart. And as Imam Ghazali and Ibn al-Qayyim explain, these dots accumulate. They accumulate until the heart becomes veiled and black, unable to recognize truth, unable to absorb light. I sat with that, because it wasn't a theory anymore, it was reflection. How many marks had I allowed? How much had I darkened my own heart? I realized something difficult. Distance from Allah isn't random, it's built, choice by choice. So I made a quiet promise to reduce sin, even the small ones no one notices, to increase good, even the small ones that no one praises, because maybe the heart could be polished again. And then I read and I read and I read, but this time I wasn't just reciting, I was listening. I came across this verse.
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن أفلا يتدبرون القرآن.
I stopped because it didn't feel like a general statement, it felt like a question directed at me. Then another verse surfaced, one tied to everything I had been learning.
كتاب أنزلناه إليك مبارك ليدبروا آياته وليتذكر أولو الألباب.
reflect. Not rush, not skim, reflect. And I realized, how long had I been reading without truly seeing? Tears started to drop, because for the first time I felt the Quran wasn't just something I was reading, it was something reading me. In the evenings, my new friend would recite. I would stop and try to listen. I witnessed something undeniable. Men sitting in silence, some exhausted, some carrying unseen struggles, while all of them were fasting. Yet as the Quran flowed, something softened. Even those who didn't understand every word felt it, because this is Kalamullah, a speech that reaches beyond language, a mercy that settles in the heart before it reaches the mind. And then there were nights, the midnight prayers, Taraweeh. The very same four walls that held quiet isolation in the day, it came alive at night. Rows formed, shoulder to shoulder. No gaps, no hierarchy, no distractions, just unity. Men who had worked all day, men who were fasting, men who were tired, yet they stood, listening, reciting, struggling, seeking khushu'. And in those long rakats, I felt something shift again. But this time, it wasn't just about presence, it was about acceptance. Because a thought entered my mind, one that unsettled me more than anything before. What if none of this is accepted? What if I stand, recite, cry, and it never reaches? And in that moment, I remembered a narration from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. On his deathbed, despite being promised Jannah, he was in a state of khawf, of fear and concern. And he responded with words that pierced through me. If he knew that even one of his prayers were accepted, he would be at peace. Just one, not a lifetime, not consistency, one accepted prayer. And here I was assuming acceptance, assuming closeness, without questioning the state of my heart. That night I didn't stand in prayer the same way. I stood with hope, but also with khawf. And for the first time I understood, khushu' is not just about presence. It was making sure you had the right intentions, hoping your act of ibadah was accepted. And so I continued reading, 18 chapters in, until I reached this verse that stops me.
إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال رب ارجعون حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال رب ارجعون لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت كلا إنها كلمة هو قائلها ومن ورائهم برزخ إلى يوم يبعثون.
That regret, that it's too late, I don't want to meet that moment empty-handed, because now I understand this life is not the destination. It's a brief stop, a station before the return, and everything comes back to this. How do you want to stand before your Lord? There was always something that made me feel uneasy. Until me and my new friend, we spoke about this short surah. One me and you probably heard countless of times, but I never truly understood. By time, indeed mankind is in loss, except for those who believe, do righteous deeds, encourage one another to truth, and encourage one another to patience. And there it was, the missing piece. It wasn't enough to fix myself in isolation. It wasn't enough to worship privately. Faith demands extension, to call to truth, to embody patience, to carry something beyond yourself, because Islam was never meant to be contained within these four walls. And somewhere between reflection and repetition, between tears and stillness, between al-layl wa nahar, I completed it. All 30 chapters, a full khatam. But it didn't feel like an ending, it felt like a beginning, because the Quran I had just finished reading had just begun rewriting me. And just like that, 8 days passed. I stood at the same doors I once entered. The same door, but not the same person. Outside, nothing changed. The noise still loud, the distractions still calling, the dunya still pulling. But inside, something had shifted. The silence I found within these walls, it came with me. And now I ask you, when was the last time you reflected? Not skimmed, not scrolled, reflected. When was the last time your heart stood still in prayer? When was the last time you truly listened? Because I walked into this mosque thinking I was stepping away from life, but I was wrong. I was stepping into it. And now as I leave, I realize what I didn't understand in the beginning. That this moment away was never just about stepping back. It was about returning. 8 days, no phone, no noise, just the heart learning how to listen, and the soul finally learning how to return.
فلقد